guys, it has been quite a process getting this motor mounted in here. This is just a mock-up engine, so it's got this weird tensioner on it for AC delete, but we're getting this all set up with the air conditioning in it and everything, and I have finally got the motor mounts figured out. Using these, it's actually a V6 Dodge mount for the Dakota. And it's actually the same side for both of them. You can see I used matching mounts back there as well. They have proved to be pretty dang difficult. Way more work than I was expecting, and about the same amount of welding, I guess. But I was using my own mount setup, so I went ahead and had these plates cut out of there and got everything going from scratch. So I'll probably have to just pull these out at the end once I get this motor back out, because we were just using it for mock-up. But I think I'll show you on the Jeep how I've always done the mounts before this, just using a puck mount versus this big Dodge mount. So we'll go over to the Jeep. So over here on my TJ, you can see the mount kind of comes straight out, and then I just welded it straight to the frame there, and it'll be easier to see from the other side. There's basically about a 1-inch thick puck, rubber puck I use for the mount there. It does vibrate some. I mean, it's pretty much like a 12 valve Cummins though. Really not that bad. But anyway, if we go underneath here to see the other side, you can see this is the passenger side mount. Just a really simple design as far as the motor mount, and I really don't mind. The vibration is pretty minimal. It's really only at idle anyway. Once you're on the highway, you don't feel the engine at all. And that just was such an easy setup compared to reusing those Dodge mounts. But I had already bought them to test them out, and so it's just what I went with. As you can see on the passenger side here, I ended up with a bunch of pipe spacers. I did go ahead and do 4 bolts on the side on this side. This is the only side that I've seen actually bend the mount on my Jeep under torque when we're in 4 low and stuff. So I made this one have 4 bolts, just try to make it as stiff as I can. So I think this setup will work pretty good. The turbo is really close to the frame here. We'll see. It's pretty well welded in place there. That's how I had it set up, not really knowing it was going to be quite this tight. But I've got this clocked to where I can turn it some, but I think it'll work. I might notch out of this coil bucket there a little bit, give me some more room there, but who knows. I may end up putting a compound setup on here, and so I may use a completely different turbo as the high pressure side if we go that route. And if you remember in the other video, the previous video, the steering box was in the way. It was hitting the compressor, so I've kind of got it mocked up here, not mounted yet, but this is about the angle. We tilted it down quite a bit more. Shouldn't affect much, and that dropped. As you can see, the pitman arm is way lower now. So the only other thing that's a kind of a clearance issue is the track bar there. It's definitely going to come up and hit the oil pan. Let's see, from underneath here, you can see there's about 1 inch of clearance right now. But I'm just going to go ahead and get a straight track bar. There's really no reason to have that bend in it. And that'll fix that issue completely. We got plenty of clearance to the pumpkin, so we don't have to worry about that at all. But yeah, I wanted to go ahead and show you guys this driver's side mount because it ended up being quite the contraption. So the factory Dodge mount was actually right here, right where the steering arm is, so that had to go. The steering arm was clear up above it before, so we got rid of that. And it's still pretty much in the way here. There was really no way to put this mount up here higher where it would, be a lot easier to just go straight across. So I ended up with it clear down on the frame underneath the oil cooler, and then I made this bracket set up to kind of just get it triangulated over to these only 3 bolt holes that this TDI has on the side. It sure would be nice if there were more options there, but we had to space it backwards enough that the oil or the air conditioner lines have room to come out. So everything clears there. It's not very pretty, but the gussets should keep it from being able to flex at all. So I think this setup will work good. I'm pretty pleased with it, other than the looks obviously, but once you get the hoses in here and everything, you really can't even see down in there anyway. So we'll just leave it at that. But overall, super happy with the clearance back here. You can see there's a ton of room there between the engine and the firewall. Vacuum pump won't be an issue at all to pull out. Even the coolant flange is really accessible. And yeah, the bell housing bolts are right there. Even on this side, there's just a ton of room. So yeah, other than probably the turbo clearance, overall I'm really pleased with this setup. Obviously you would expect to have a ton of room coming from a V8 vehicle, but these Dakotas were pretty tight for space, so it's just nice to see that I got it all in there looking good. So we'll get this engine pulled out and show you what these mounts kind of look like. So here with the mounts out of the truck here, you can see this is the passenger side. There's 2 bolt holes, and even those you got to put a washer on this one to level those 2 out, and then these 2 aren't the same either. They are about 1 inch and 1 1/4 inches different to make a flat plate for the side of the TDI. It's quite a process for sure. And then I just did pretty much 4 even pipe spacers, drilled some new holes in this Dodge mount to give you this motor mount for the passenger side. It's, again, neither of these are really that pretty compared to what I did for the Jeep, so I don't know that I'll do this again just because of how much work it was, but we'll see how the ride is. Hopefully these big rubber mounts are a lot better with vibration and stuff. But yeah, the passenger side got even worse, because if you've seen the TD conversions mounts, they're basically this flat plate here and then another flat plate to come out. But with the way everything is in there and the steering arm, I couldn't mount it right here, so we had to go clear down to here, which led me to all this gusseting and everything. But basically, with the center line of this mount, you can see most of the torque is going to be right here on this center section, which is where I spent most of my time. And then there's going to be a little bit of twisting, possibly. I don't even know how much there really will be, but this big bar keeps the whole plate here itself from flexing, because obviously I just bent this by hand to get to that upper bolt up there. And then these two gussets here should keep any twisting out of the way. I'd love to go out clear to the other side, but I've got the oil cooler sitting right above here. So anyway, again, they're probably not as pretty as I would like, but I think they're beefy enough to do the job, and that's my main goal. So once we get the good engine in here and get it set in for good, we should have it ready to go. And then we'll be to the fun part of hooking up all the hoses. So anyway, stay tuned for more, and we'll get this thing running.